It's 2589 BCE, and the ancient world has never seen anything like what's about to unfold. Pharaoh Khufu has just inherited the throne of Egypt, one of the most powerful civilizations on Earth. But Khufu isn't content with the modest tombs of his ancestors, those simple mud brick structures called mastabas that barely rose above the desert floor. No, Khufu has a vision that will literally reach toward the heavens. He stands on the Giza Plateau, about 10 miles southwest of modern-day Cairo, surveying the landscape where his mother Hedefers lies buried. This location is perfect, close enough to the capital city of Memphis, yet far enough from the crowded necropolis of Saqqara where Djoser's step pyramid already dominates the skyline. Khufu calls upon his nephew Himiunu, a brilliant architect whose father had served as vizier to Khufu's own father, Sneferu. Himiunu had learned from the mistakes of previous pyramid builders: the collapsed pyramid at Meidum, the bent pyramid with its miscalculated angles. Now, with accumulated knowledge and Egypt's vast resources at his disposal, Himiunu begins planning something unprecedented. The pharaoh's vision isn't just about building a tomb. It's about creating a monument that will demonstrate Egypt's power and engineering mastery to the world. A structure so magnificent that it will inspire awe for millennia. Little do they know, they're about to create the last surviving wonder of the ancient world. Work begins with the mobilization of resources across the entire kingdom. Quarries spring to life in Aswan, 500 miles to the south, where workers begin extracting pink granite. Closer limestone quarries near Giza start producing the bulk of the building material. The greatest construction project in human history is about to begin. To truly understand the Great Pyramid's magnificence, we need to grasp numbers that seem almost impossible for the ancient world. This isn't just a big pile of rocks. This is precision engineering on a scale that wouldn't be matched for over 3 millennia. The pyramid rises 479 feet into the Egyptian sky. That's taller than a 40-story modern skyscraper. Its base covers 754 feet on each side, large enough to fit 10 football fields. But here's where it gets mind-boggling. This massive structure contains over 2.3 million individual stone blocks. That's not an estimate. That's based on careful archaeological calculations. Each block averages 2.5 tons, but some of the granite slabs in the king's chamber weigh up to 60 tons. To put that in perspective, imagine trying to lift 12 adult elephants to the top of a skyscraper using only ropes, wooden levers, and human muscle power. No cranes, no motors, no modern machinery of any kind. The precision is what truly staggers modern engineers. The base is perfectly square, aligned to the cardinal directions with an accuracy that rivals modern surveying equipment. The sides meet at precise 90-degree angles. The entire structure was originally encased in polished white limestone that would have made it gleam like a beacon across the desert, visible for miles in every direction. For over 3,000 years, longer than Christianity has existed, this pyramid held the record as the tallest human-made structure on Earth. Only when the Eiffel Tower was completed in 1889 was this ancient record finally broken. But even today, stripped of its outer casing and weathered by millennia, the Great Pyramid inspires awe in millions of visitors who struggle to comprehend how such a monument was even possible. Here's where our story takes a fascinating turn into one of history's greatest mysteries. How did ancient Egyptians, working over 45,000 years ago, move more than 2 million massive stone blocks with such impossible precision that modern engineers still can't fully explain it? The traditional theory has always centered on ramps, massive earthen and stone ramps that spiraled around the pyramid as it grew taller. It sounds logical enough until you run the numbers. And when engineers actually calculated what this would require, the theory completely falls apart. Here's the problem: physics. The steeper the ramp, the more force required to drag heavy objects up it. For workers to drag a 2.5-ton block up a ramp using only human power, the incline can't exceed about 8%. Basic geometry tells us that to reach the pyramid's height of 479 feet at an 8% grade, the ramp would need to start almost 1 mile away from the pyramid. But it gets worse. Building a mile-long ramp that rises 479 feet would require almost as much stone and earth as the pyramid itself. Essentially, the Egyptians would have had to build 2 massive monuments in just 20 years, the pyramid and an equally massive ramp system. Then, mysteriously, they would have had to completely dismantle and remove all traces of this enormous ramp. French architect Jean-Pierre Houdin proposed a variation: internal ramps within the pyramid itself. But this theory struggles with the same basic problems of physics and space. How do you get enough workers inside the pyramid to move 60-ton granite blocks up internal ramps? How do you maneuver such massive stones around tight corners in narrow passages? Every conventional theory hits the same wall: the sheer impossibility of moving such enormous weights to such heights with the technology supposedly available to the ancient Egyptians. This has led some people to propose increasingly exotic explanations, everything from alien intervention to lost ancient technologies. But what if the answer has been hiding in plain sight, right beneath the pyramid itself? Engineer Robert Carson spent years studying the Great Pyramid and came to a startling conclusion. The monument could only have been built using hydraulic power. His theory revolutionizes our understanding of ancient Egyptian engineering capabilities. Carson's breakthrough came when he focused on something other researchers had largely ignored: the high water table beneath the Giza Plateau. Even today, archaeologists struggle with flooding when excavating sites around the pyramid. Egyptologist Zahi Hawass documented how dangerous the water levels were during his excavation of the nearby Osiris shaft, noting that in 1945, guides were actually swimming in the underground chambers. But here's the crucial detail: geological surveys prove that 45 years ago, the water table was significantly higher than it is today. The entire Giza region was much more fertile and water-rich during the Old Kingdom period. Carson's theory suggests the ancient Egyptians harnessed this water power through an ingenious internal hydraulic system. Water pressure from below could lift the massive stone blocks through carefully engineered shafts within the pyramid. Combined with a primitive but effective crane-like device called a shaduf, a long pole with a bucket and counterweight that Egyptians used for drawing water from wells, they could have positioned these blocks with remarkable precision. This theory suddenly explains features of the pyramid that have puzzled researchers for centuries. Those mysterious internal shafts and chambers. They weren't just ceremonial, they were functional components of a massive hydraulic lifting system. The precise internal passages, they were channels for moving blocks using water power. The evidence is compelling. The pyramid's internal architecture makes perfect sense when viewed as a sophisticated water-powered construction system. The ancient Egyptians were master hydraulic engineers. They had to be, living in a civilization entirely dependent on managing the Nile's annual floods. Why wouldn't they apply this expertise to their greatest construction project? Carson's theory respects both the ingenuity of ancient Egyptian engineers and the laws of physics. It doesn't require alien intervention or lost super technologies, just brilliant application of principles the Egyptians knew better than anyone. The power of water. Hollywood has given us a persistent image that's completely wrong. Thousands of Hebrew slaves, whipped and beaten, dragging massive stones across the desert to build monuments to pharaonic ego. It's a powerful image, but archaeology has thoroughly debunked this myth. The real story began to emerge in 1979 when Egyptologists Mark Lehner and Zahi Hawass discovered and excavated workers' villages near the pyramids. What they found revolutionized our understanding of who built these monuments and how they lived. These weren't slave quarters. They were well-planned communities. The villages included bakeries that could feed thousands of workers, breweries for producing beer safer to drink than water in ancient times, medical facilities where workers received treatment for injuries, and comfortable housing arranged in organized neighborhoods. Even more revealing were the papyrus records found at various sites. These weren't records of slave ownership. They were payroll documents. Workers were compensated for their efforts with food, beer, and other goods. Some records even show workers taking time off for personal reasons or to tend to family matters. But here's the most ingenious aspect of the whole operation: timing. The pyramid wasn't built by full-time workers year-round. Instead, the Egyptians took advantage of a natural phenomenon that provided them with a massive seasonal workforce. Every year, the Nile River flooded for about 2 months, depositing rich silt across Egypt's farmlands. This flooding was essential for agriculture. It made Egypt the breadbasket of the ancient world. But during those 2 months, farming was impossible. Tens of thousands of farmers suddenly had nothing to do. The pharaoh's government offered these unemployed farmers a deal. Come work on the pyramid project, and we'll provide food, shelter, and compensation. For the farmers, it was a win-win situation. They earned income during the agricultural off-season and contributed to a project they believed would benefit their civilization and secure their pharaoh's place in the afterlife. Archaeological evidence shows that workers came from all over Egypt to participate in pyramid construction. Graffiti found in the pyramid's internal chambers includes the names of work crews with names like Friends of Khufu and Drunkards of Menkaure, hardly the markings of oppressed slaves. The workers took pride in their efforts. They were building an eternal home for their god-king, and they believed their participation would earn them favor in the afterlife. This wasn't slave labor. It was a massive public works project that united the entire kingdom in a common cause. Modern Egyptologists estimate that the core workforce consisted of about 2,000 permanent skilled workers: stonemasons, engineers, architects, and foremen. During the flood season, this workforce swelled to over 20,000 temporary laborers. These seasonal workers handled the massive task of moving and positioning the stone blocks that the permanent crew had prepared during the rest of the year. Critics of the pyramid as tomb theory often ask a simple question. If the Great Pyramid was really Khufu's tomb, where's his mummy? Where are the grave goods that should accompany a pharaoh into the afterlife? The chambers are empty, so how can we be sure this was ever actually a burial site? The answer lies in humanity's oldest profession after farming: grave robbing. For over 4,000 years, the Great Pyramid has been systematically plundered by thieves seeking the incredible treasures that would have been buried with a pharaoh. Ancient Egyptian texts from the New Kingdom period, around 1,500 BCE, record organized tomb-robbing operations. Papyrus documents describe trials of tomb robbers who systematically looted royal burials. The Great Pyramid, being the most famous and presumably the richest tomb in Egypt, would have been a prime target. The most famous historical robbery occurred in 820 CE when Caliph al-Ma'mun, hoping to find legendary treasures, ordered his workers to blast a tunnel into the pyramid. This robber's tunnel is still visible today and is actually how most tourists enter the monument. Al-Ma'mun's expedition found the internal chambers completely empty, evidence that earlier robbers had already done their work. But the robbery probably began much earlier. During the chaotic periods when Central Egyptian authority collapsed, organized gangs of tomb robbers operated with near impunity. The pyramid's isolated location, far from major population centers during certain periods, made it an easy target. Herodotus, the Greek historian who visited Egypt in the 5th century BCE, reported that the pyramid had already been looted by his time. He wrote about local guides showing visitors the empty burial chamber, already stripped of its contents over 2,000 years before his visit. The absence of Khufu's mummy and grave goods doesn't disprove the tomb theory. It actually confirms how thoroughly and persistently the pyramid has been robbed throughout history. Every other royal tomb ever discovered in Egypt shows evidence of robbery, even those hidden in the Valley of the Kings. The Great Pyramid, standing in plain sight for 45 years, has simply had more time and opportunity to be completely stripped. Recent archaeological work has found fragments of evidence supporting the pyramid's original function as a tomb. Pieces of granite that match the sarcophagus in the king's chamber have been discovered in surrounding areas, suggesting the original burial equipment was broken up and removed piece by piece over centuries. The pyramid's internal architecture, the king's chamber, queen's chamber, and elaborate passage system, all match the design of other confirmed royal tombs from the same period. The monument was built as a tomb, functioned as a tomb, and was robbed like a tomb. The mystery isn't whether it was a tomb, the mystery is how thoroughly it was emptied. After centuries of neglect under Roman and later Islamic rule, the Great Pyramid was essentially forgotten by the wider world. Local populations knew of it, of course, but its significance as an ancient wonder was lost to most of humanity. That changed dramatically in 1798 when Napoleon Bonaparte launched his Egyptian campaign. Napoleon didn't just bring soldiers to Egypt. He brought an army of scholars, scientists, artists, and archaeologists. This team, known as the Commission des Sciences et des Arts, was tasked with documenting everything they could find about ancient Egyptian civilization. When they reached Giza and saw the pyramids, they were stunned. Legend has it that Napoleon himself spent a night alone inside the Great Pyramid's king's chamber, though he never revealed what he experienced there. What we do know is that his scholars created the first accurate modern measurements and drawings of the monument, sparking worldwide fascination with ancient Egypt. But it was British archaeologist Sir William Matthew Flinders Petrie who revolutionized pyramid studies. Arriving in Egypt in 1880, Petrie brought something new to archaeology: scientific methodology. Previous explorers had been little better than treasure hunters, blasting their way through ancient sites in search of artifacts to ship back to European museums. Petrie was different. He understood that the monument itself was more valuable than any treasure it might contain. He spent years meticulously measuring every aspect of the pyramid with instruments he designed himself, achieving a level of precision that wasn't surpassed until modern laser equipment became available. His measurements revealed the pyramid's incredible accuracy. The base is square to within just 2 centimeters, an error rate of less than 0.01%. The orientation to cardinal directions is precise to within 3 arc minutes, more accurate than the magnetic compass reading available to Petrie himself. Petrie's work established the protocols for studying ancient monuments that archaeologists still follow today. He proved that scientific study could reveal more about ancient civilizations than treasure hunting ever could. His detailed documentation allowed future researchers to study the pyramid without damaging it further. Modern technology has continued to reveal the pyramid's secrets. In 2017, an international team used cosmic ray imaging to discover a previously unknown void above the Grand Gallery. Ground-penetrating radar has mapped additional chambers and passages. Each new discovery adds to our understanding while raising new questions. The pyramid has also become a powerful symbol of human achievement. Standing before this ancient monument, visitors from around the world are confronted with a humbling truth. 45,000 years ago, human beings created something so magnificent that we still struggle to understand how they did it. But perhaps that's the most important lesson of the Great Pyramid. It wasn't built by aliens or lost super-civilizations. It was built by people. People with the same basic intelligence and creativity we have today. People who faced an impossible challenge and found a way to overcome it through ingenuity, organization, and sheer determination. The Great Pyramid stands as proof that human beings, working together with vision and purpose, can create wonders that last for millennia. In our modern world of rapid change and disposable technology, there's something profoundly moving about a monument built to last forever and succeeding.